All right, everybody, this is Emar Sopatut, the Sports Inquirer, and we're happy to be joined by Beth Van Fleet, the head coach of Georgia State Beach Volleyball. We were just talking off air about your performance at the CFC Beach Classic in Charleston, South Carolina over this past weekend. You won 2 out of 3 matches, but just overall impressions of how the team performed over the weekend before we get to specifics.
Sure. We first of all love going to Charleston. It's such a beautiful town, and we've always got a nice schedule that allows us to go kind of walk around a bit, which is neat for the student athletes to see something other than just a bunch of beach volleyball courts. So as far as competing went, we played pretty well. Definitely had a really great game plan going in against Tusculum and then Stetson on the first day. Tusculum played great. They are, I think we were like their 5th or 6th duel for the season, and they were competing really hard. A really great team. And then next we played Stetson, and Stetson came out on fire. They played so well, very clean, very disciplined volleyball, really put a lot of pressure on us, and we were able to learn from that loss how we want to compete and how we want to train for the rest of this season, finishing up regular season over these next 2 weeks and then getting ready for the postseason. And so I think that was very motivating for us, and came back out the next morning against Charleston, the host, and played really well against them. That was nice to finish the weekend on a high note.
Yeah, able to defeat Charleston 4-1. Kate Novak and Kelly Dorn were able to get that clinching victory for you on court too. Just what was the difference just from the team overall from that Stetson defeat to turn it around and beat Charleston on their home court?
Well, Charleston also they got a bunch of their indoor players back. And so it was really neat because the team that we watched compete the night before was not the same team necessarily that we played against. And so what I thought we did really well was going in thinking we had an idea of who we were going to compete against Charleston, and then having to adjust real quickly to some new players who had not yet seen this year. So I kind of just go back to losing to Stetson is something that was like a punch to the gut for us. And we knew they were going to come back out and play really hard against us after having seen each other last weekend. And Stetson just getting to kind of walk away with the win was painful. But I think anytime you can learn from a loss, you grow from it. And I truly believe that's what our team did over the weekend.
Was there a pairing that stood out for you over the weekend that you are very impressed with from on your squad that performed well over those 3 matches?
I don't usually think about how we compete in terms of pairs. So I don't actually think that I know anybody's records. I know across the board, in the 4s and the 5s, Angel and Bella, the Ferrari sisters, have been really starting us off strong. And then I know we had great performances this weekend by Becky Tresham and Elise Saga against Stetson. They had a really nice comeback in the 3rd set to win their flight. And then Peyton Crinwelge and Kaylee McClure got in against College of Charleston, and they helped start us off really strong as well. So I think it was neat to see contributions across the board. Eden and Maddie Del Monte playing in the 1s, they definitely have their work cut out for them. And I give them credit every week for coming back and working as hard as they can. Kate and Kelly in the 2s, they're really figuring, they really have a system, and they have been able to work through a bunch of different challenges this year on and off the sand. And then with Olivia and MJ in the 3s, they've been working pretty hard for us as well, and just trying to figure out the polishing of their systems.
I was able to speak with Olivia earlier today, and the interview is up on the site. Her working with Maddie Johnson, or MJ. What about that pairing? And then Olivia, just her perspective, being a graduate student, coming back to the program for her senior year. What has that meant for the program to have a veteran leader like that?
Sure. So we have 3 fifth years that came back. So Maddie Gordon, Olivia, and Kate Novak. They all are in their 5th year, which was awesome to have them come back. And that's something that we've seen across the board. So every team that we're playing has a couple of those 5th years. And so while we think it's a great advantage, It's more of the norm this year, just because so many seniors from last year were not finished and wanted to come back and put the final touches on their career. But it's really incredible to have, we have 8 seniors essentially. So we have senior day on Saturday, and we have half of our team is getting honored with 5 true seniors and 3 grad students. So we do have an older, more mature, more experienced team. And it's been really fun working with them this year.
Yeah, and you mentioned this upcoming weekend, your GSU Diggin Duals. You have Southern Miss, UAB, and South Carolina, all conference foes. Just
Yes.
how big are these matches? Because you're heading towards the end of your
Oh,
regular season, and I know you have some postseason aspirations. How
yeah.
critical are these contests for you at home
So yeah, the
to
great
get these wins?
question, Marcel. Yeah. So this coming into this weekend, we've played all of these schools once already. And so we all have an expectation of how we will compete against each other, how we will match up against each other. With Southern Miss and UAB, they're both on our half of the CCSA conference division. So those are critical games for us. Right now, yeah, and they're both going to be extremely competitive. I don't know exactly how the seeding is going to be right now, but I know we're in a really good position on our side of the bracket. South Carolina's on the other side of the bracket. So that game against them is more for national recognition than it would be within our conference, simply because we won't have the opportunity to match up with them at the conference tournament. But I know, like, we love competing against South Carolina, and I know how much it means to our team. Like, it's a wonderful love-hate relationship. And so I know how hard we play against them and how hard they'll show up to play against us as well.
Yeah, how much of an advantage is it that you've already seen all 3 of those conference opponents this year, as opposed to the first time when you were coming into it really blindly, with a
Yeah.
lack of a normal preseason and everything like that?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because in indoor volleyball, systems and people are a little bit more predictable. Whereas in beach, we played, for example, we played UAB at Gulf Shores, and the sand is pretty deep there and it was pretty windy there. And so if we're here at home this weekend and the weather is great, or the weather is any way different than how it was at Gulf Shores, that makes a huge impact on how people will perform. And let alone we're all humans out there. Nobody's a robot. So what they did before may not be what they're going to necessarily do this time. And so it is great to have a little bit of familiarity with the team, as long as we don't overextend what we think is going to happen, and that we are able to play in the present and adjust when the game plan that we've created may not be the right roadmap.
All right. Well, Beth, thank you for your time. We greatly appreciate it, and good luck this weekend.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks so much, Marcel. And hopefully we don't have a ton of rain and lightning for our home tournament. And we are excited to have the families out here, especially for our seniors, to get to honor them. Thank you so much for your interest in our program.
All right. Thank you.